Lila Garrity made me go into blind fits of rage
Here it comes.
so many times.
Meet Sara and Samantha.
Two cousins obsessed with exploring the vast pop culture landscape, one recommendation at a time.
In each episode, one clueless cousin shares real-time reactions as they navigate the twists and turns of a pop culture topic selected by the other.
From travel to movies,
Little Debbie's to trashy novels.
Get ready to eavesdrop on the candid reactions and dynamic conversations you can only have with family.
This is Foreign and Familiar.
Welcome to Foreign and Familiar. I am Samantha.
And I'm Sara.
Sara, amazing as always. But today we're matching a little bit because we are both wearing glasses, which is
true.
Rare. Very, very rare.
It is rare.
I can't pull them off as well as you, so I have to pick and choose when I decide to record them. But
Well, thanks.
We're in our full fall aesthetic, I think, and that includes large glasses.
That includes the glasses. Yeah. They're always an aesthetic for me. I did contacts for a while, like off and on for years, and then I finally was just like, with allergies, like my eyes were really sensitive all the time. It just became too much of a hassle, and glasses it is now.
I am a disposable daily contact wearer. I was the irresponsible one in college that slept with her contacts in and really damaged her eyes. So now when I do it, I do the dailies. Speaking of fall, though, fall is my favorite fashion time. I love a tall boot. I love a sexy sweater. I love pea coats or, a nice brown or camel colored pea coat when it can be super stylish and you don't have to worry because the pea coat is warm enough for the brisk weather, but it's not -4 like it gets in Chicago and you think I can't even wear a pea coat. I just have to wear a parka and a balaclava or those masks that cover your face. Yeah. So I love fall. It's my favorite. October is my favorite month.
Same. I am a fall girly through and through. It is my favorite. I look forward to it all year. I this year started calling summer pre-fall just because I was trying to still enjoy like the warm weather and everything, and I was very much, when can the pumpkins come out? When is it acceptable to get them out? So
it's very early. It's August, and honestly, I have a box of some pumpkin spice coffee here, but I haven't had a PSL from Starbucks yet, and I feel like I have to get that in before October because November is a hard departure from pumpkin for me, even though you do pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving. But I get into the peppermint stage starting in November, I would say.
That's fair. I'll usually finish up whatever pumpkin I still have, but I also try to wrap it up by November.
The best year-round, but especially fall K-Cup you can get is Starbucks Toasted Graham. It is unbelievable. It's graham cracker flavored K-Cup. It's so delicious.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. So another awesome thing about October is your birthday. And what our family listeners may not know is that your birthday is the same as my mom's birthday. So it's
true.
Coming up here very, very quickly. And also my aunt, my mom's sister's wife's birthday as well. So it is a popular day in the Flynn household.
Sure
and
is.
I think when we're looking at our snacks for today, podcasting is always sweeter with snack, we have to have an appropriate treat to mark such a wonderful occasion as the day of your birth, which obviously should be a national holiday, Sara. And it might be on the ballot this year. So maybe we should take a look at that.
It's true. It's true.
So Sara, what are we reviewing today?
So today we are talking about the Little Debbie birthday cakes. These are a vanilla flavored birthday cake baked with candy confetti, layered with cream, coated with white icing, and topped with rainbow sprinkles. And I know we've been talking a lot about the format that the Little Debbies come in. So these are the stick, single serve, larger cake sizes that we've been describing.
And not to be confused with the birthday cake cream pies that we reviewed back in the Scream episode. This is a second birthday cake flavor entry from Little Debbie. So Sarah, what did you think?
So, given the choice between the two, these are my preference over the cream pies. As I said in the Scream episode, I think the cream pies, for me, they felt a little dry. I think that I don't know if the icing didn't cover it. I don't know if it was because the cake, cookie, whatever we're calling it, was flatter. I didn't find it as moist as the cakes. So I do really enjoy the cake. I love birthday cake anything. My favorite flavor of ice cream for the longest time was birthday cake ice cream from Brewster's specifically.
I was just about to say, nothing is like a birthday cake ice cream when the icing is in the ice cream. That's my favorite part of the birthday cake ice cream.
Yes.
And then, yes, the cake and the sprinkles. But that's how you know it's a birthday cake flavor is you can, I don't know how to describe it, taste and see the icing within the ice cream. And that is always the best bite.
Yeah, it's like chunks of icing, which doesn't make sense because it's not chunky, but I don't know how else to describe it too. It's weird. It's almost like a glob, like how hot fudge is kind of like globby. It's almost like that, but
So
in the
good.
best way. It's so good. So that's my take. I prefer these over the cream pies. What's your take, Sam?
I prefer the cream pies over these. I would say the cream pies we talked about were maybe a little bit too sweet, but you definitely get the birthday cake flavor. And I felt like this was a good white on white cake or yellow on white cake. I just don't know that I got that birthday cake feel to it. The icing isn't different, I feel, than icing in other Little Debbies. I felt they're calling it birthday cake because they have some funfetti in the batter and some sprinkles on top, but it didn't taste like a birthday cake. I felt like I was really hunting for that flavor. Whereas the cream pies, it's so smack in your face that it's just a lot. So I would hope that Little Debbie, if they decide to stay with the birthday cake flavor, which would be awesome, that their third iteration would thread the needle and do a mix of the two.
Some happy medium between the two. And I will say too that while I like these, I do think that the eating multiple in a row, which we've done, the flavor gets to be a bit much. I think one is enough for me, but after a while it does taste just very artificial, very, very sweet. Like I just need some water and maybe something savory to just balance everything out.
I just feel, Sarah, that therapists would have a field day with this podcast for a lot of reasons, but particularly because we always somehow circle back around to how we feel about the artificiality of Little Debbie's. And this is really kind of an existential crisis that we go through quite a bit. And the reality is, again, there is nothing good in these snack cakes. And what are we doing here? You know?
Nothing.
Does life even matter? What even matters, you know?
Right. I know. I do. I think that all the time. Like, I buy a box of Little Debbie's and then I go to the produce aisle and I'm looking for, okay, what do they have that's organic that I can cook with this week? Or I go to the tuna aisle and I'm like, what's the best canned tuna? Like, what has the least mercury and the least stuff added to it? But then there in my cart is a box of birthday cakes or unicorn cakes or fudge rounds or something, but
it's all moderation. I think we just have to, what's interesting to me is we just have to put it in the category of in our minds as moderation. It's junk food. It's a sweet treat. Quit trying to justify it. But we do. I just think it's funny. I just wonder if we're not putting on a masterclass of self-delusion and our family listeners are saying to the wherever they're listening to this podcast right now, oh my gosh, there's nothing good in a Little Debbie. Knock it off. But maybe I'm just projecting. So
No, I think the issue that we have with this pod is that it's every time we record, and a lot of times we do like 2-3 in a row, we're talking about all of these artificial snack cakes that we eat, when in reality that is not what encompasses our entire diet. I would say for the most part we eat fairly healthy. I mean,
I would tell you, outside of this podcast, I don't have them in the house because I can't trust myself around them, but also because there are other things that I enjoy more from a sweet perspective and from a cooking perspective. And if I had a little Debbie every single day, I would weigh 4,000 pounds. But
exactly.
Yeah, I know. I'm just being hard on us, I guess. Anyway.
Yeah. Tough love.
Speaking of tough love, we have a chock full episode of it today because our subject matter was 22 episodes, and that is full of tough love from top to bottom. Sarah, what are we reviewing today?
Today we are reviewing the 2006 TV drama Friday Night Lights. This was my pick, my recommendation for Sam.
Yes, and we are going down to Dillon, Texas, and following the Panthers as they march towards state. That's all. State.
We're going to state.
State. I mean, it's the biggest thing that's going on in Dillon, and there is so much to unpack here. Sarah, for those that are unfamiliar with Friday Night Lights, what do they need to know?
So Friday Night Lights was originally based off of a 1990 novel by H.G. Bissinger, I'm not really sure how to say it, of the same name. There was a 2004 film starring none other than Billy Bob Thornton, Garrett Hedlund, Amber Heard, and we do have some repeats in both the movie and the show that we'll talk about later. But this TV show came about in 2006. It ran for 6 seasons. There are, I think, 76 episodes total. It had a really large fan base when it was on TV, and it still has a really large fan base now. Some of the awards that are notable: it won a Peabody Award, an Emmy Award for Outstanding Cast, an NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Directing, Television Critics Association Award, multiple Writers Guild nominations, and the 2 leading actors, Kyle Chandler and Connie Britton, both received Emmy nominations for their performances. And in 2011, Kyle Chandler did win the Outstanding Lead Actor Emmy in a drama series.
There's a lot that I can appreciate about this show. The attention to detail, the consistency, the carry through, and the characters. I don't know that I, at any point, so this was similar to Dawson's Creek in that Sarah picked the first season for me to watch, where Dawson's Creek, it was the third one, but it was 22 episodes. I don't know that anywhere in the entirety of this season I felt like a character did something that was really out of character. It's pretty consistent writing. So I think that the showrunners really care about what they're putting forward. And I do think that obviously it's a show that has come from a movie, so they carry through and make sure it's consistent because they want to bring the fans over. So it's nice that they did that even in the details of the music as well to help continue that continuity. That just shows a lot of care that's being put into the project, for sure.
Definitely. Well, let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll start talking about season 1 of Friday Night Lights. We are back from break. We are ready to dive into season 1 of the 2006 TV drama Friday Night Lights. As we do with TV shows, we'll do a little bit of a different format. Typically, we just walk through a movie, plot points, go from beginning to end. Today, we're going to be talking about the cast of characters and then highlighting some of our favorite, memorable, important moments from the story in season 1. So, Sam, let's get started. I think maybe for any listeners who are not familiar, maybe we should do just a broad like a really broad overview of the plot just to kind of give them ideas of who these people are. This is the story of a small town in Dillon, Texas, and basically their devotion to football and how football is the core of their community and how it kind of overflows into the rest of the community and brings these people together. So the character that we are following throughout the most of the series is Coach Eric Taylor. There are a variety of other characters that we get to see pretty closely, but he is kind of the main focus from beginning to end. So I think that's probably a good place to start. Let's start with the man himself, Kyle Chandler, who plays Coach Eric Taylor.
I mean, Kyle Chandler's awesome. Coach Taylor is awesome. Have you seen the bomb episode of Grey's Anatomy?
I honestly don't think I've seen a single episode of Grey's Anatomy.
And here's the thing, that's okay. But when Grey's was at its peak, it must have been the second or the third season. Naturally, somebody comes into the ER with a live bomb in their stomach and they have to get it out. And Kyle Chandler plays the bomb squad guy. And it's actually a really good episode. So I would send that to you. But other than that, I had not seen him a lot. So it was good to see him in this role. Coach Taylor is a football coach. Pretty decent morals. He's not perfect. There are so many unlikable characters in this show, but Eric Taylor is not one of them. Him and Tammy are the heart of the show.
I think that there are a lot of really awful characters, and I think that there are characters that I start out really liking and then I don't like them anymore. Kyle Chandler and Connie Britton, who plays his wife Tammy, are the two that remain the most consistent throughout the show and just trying to live up to these. I mean, they both work with kids, right? He's a high school football coach. She is a high school guidance counselor. So they both really try to kind of live up to these values that they're trying to instill in the kids that they're working with.
And in general, I love Connie Britton. She was also in American Horror Story the first season. She was in Nashville, the show. She played a singer. She was great in that. I think she picks really good projects. I think she plays this role really great. And I don't know anybody that I've never heard a bad word said about Tammy Taylor because I don't think there is one to say.
She is one of the two actors that do carry over from the movie to the show. So she was also in the 2004 movie.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we got a little carryover with the cast as well. Eric and Tammy have a 16-ish-year-old daughter, Julie Taylor. Love to hear your thoughts on Julie.
I actually think she's really sweet. I think she's an age-appropriate 16-year-old trying to figure it out, not perfect, making some big decisions or thinking through some big things, but she, to me, came off as a very real 16-year-old. I know we talk about Dawson's Creek and how there's no way that those kids, that 16-year-olds are talking like that. I think she came off pretty good. She's the Taylor family. I can root for her.
Julie Taylor is played by Amy Teagarden, who made a very quick cameo in Scream 4, I believe. Is it 4?
Oh, she was one of the ones that was stabbed in the Stab movies.
Yeah, I like season 1 Julie Taylor. I think I agree with you. She's a very real 16-year-old kid. I love the relationship that she has with her parents and how close that they all are. And I think she is struggling with growing up and kind of figuring out boundaries and what she really wants. I would say later Julie Taylor, I am not a fan of.
That entire family is equated around Coach Taylor and his job as a coach. And that means that they're opening their house for team dinners, for entertaining the boosters. Oh my gosh, having their entire lives on display. And so I think in some of the moments where Julie is potentially on the line, you understand, I mean, that entire family, the entire family is geared towards Eric Taylor's job. I'm not saying that that's right or wrong, but it's not just a job. It's a complete lifestyle, which, again, as we start talking about the plot, it's just such a microscope and such a fishbowl that, and I believe it's genuinely like that. In some of my research I've done here, a lot of the reviews and a lot of the acclaim is because they accurately captured what small town Texas football life is like. And so it's just a completely different existence. I found myself thinking a couple times when I was watching this, could you imagine if that was your life? Like if it was, this is the high school football game on Fridays. Everything I do in the town is to support it. Everybody's coming back. They live and breathe and die this high school football. And to know that that is the existence of so many people, it just couldn't be any more different from where I'm at in my life. So it was cool to kind of see the drama and what that could kind of be like.
I grew up in a town that there was a lot of pride in the football program, but it was not to the Dillon Panthers level. I think if any of the boosters tried to pull what these boosters did, that the coaches would have very stern talking to with them. Like, I do not think it would be handled with as much grace as Eric Taylor handles it. So
Right.
It really is, it's a completely different lifestyle. Speaking of the boosters, I think the only one that's really worth noting is Buddy Garrity, played by Brad Leland. He is the second character to overlap from the movie to the TV show.
Well, he plays that role. I mean, I thought that they literally picked up a Texas booster and just put him on screen, to tell you the truth.
Honestly.
Buddy Garrity sucks. Here's the thing. He's entertaining to watch, and it is good. They don't really give him a ton of power in the sense of he hatches some schemes, but they're not successful, and or he gets brought down very quickly, which I don't know is always the case in real life. But essentially, he was on the team in high school, won a state championship, married the cheerleader, which is now his wife, and is just the big man on campus, getting involved, illegally recruiting people, sweeping things under the rug. But I will say, everybody does go to him when they need financial help, when they need a job, when they need, and so he is there. He does have a favoritism, and he is inappropriate in a lot of ways. You know, you got to throw in the classic sexual assault stuff, you know, that goes hand in hand. But I think that he genuinely is a part of that community.
I love Buddy Garrity with all of his flaws, like you said, because he's very entertaining to watch.
He is. Like, I was always paying attention whenever he was on screen and following his stories. But in general, it's like, like, if I knew Buddy Garrity in real life, I wouldn't be able to stand him. But on TV, he's very entertaining.
That's it. It's fun to watch because you know that if it were real, you would be so annoyed by that person.
Right.
So it's fun to have like a bird's eye view of that. Buddy's daughter, Lila Garrity, is the cheerleader. She is dating the high school quarterback, Jason Streets. So let's talk Minka Kelly playing Lila Garrity.
Lila Garrity made me go into blind fits of rage.
Here it comes.
So many times watching this show. I don't think there has ever been a dumber character that has ever been written. And I do not think there's ever been a worse actress on one of these shows. I understand, listen, Minka Kelly is beautiful. You cannot get around that. She has dated Derek Jeter. She has dated Trevor Noah, right? The only other thing I've ever seen her in was this horrible movie from the early 2000s called The Roommate, where it was her and Leighton Meester. And Leighton Meester is a psychopath roommate that tries to kill her and she has to run. And that movie was horrendous, but I just thought, well, this is a B-list movie and these girls just don't have a lot of material to work with. I was wrong. Minka Kelly is a terrible actress. The character spends the entire first season just saying Jason's name over and over, like, Jason, 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 Jason. And if you think that's annoying, try watching it for 22 episodes. Aside from that, whenever she has to show any kind of emotion, she clenches her bottom jaw. It's like it's glued all the way to the top of her lips, and she just is spewing things, whether she's sad or whether she's crying.
Don't say that, Jason.
Lila Garrity is the cheerleader, as you mentioned, with Jason Streets. I feel like we cannot go forward talking about Lila until we talk about the situation with Jason.
Yeah, of course. Let's do it. So Jason Streets is the high school quarterback, star football player of the Dillon Panthers, and kind of getting into the plot of the first episode here. In the first episode, he makes a tackle and is injured and paralyzed.
I rewound the hit a couple times. I do not understand how he was paralyzed. He kind of launches himself like a lawn dart at the running back, but it doesn't seem like there's a ton of contact. The running back runs and I think scores. So it's not even like he hits him full on. And it's this really devastating. I mean, yeah, he's paralyzed for the rest of his life, which is, I mean, that happens in the first episode. So it's like, okay, we're going. But I just didn't think that the hit matches up with the injury. All that to say, it's very sad. And the first couple episodes particularly really zoom in on a micro level on the life of a newly paralyzed or a paraplegic person. And that is what makes Lila even worse, because she has this toxic positivity. She's in there from the first second. You're going to walk again, Jathan. Jathan, you're going to walk again, Jathan. And the doctors are literally sitting there in the room saying, son, you're never going to walk again. And she's like, Jathan, you got to think about this. You just got to try harder. And it's, the doctors are literally telling him, you need to remodel your home. You need to go into rehab for months. And then she's trying to kiss him and have sex with him and stuff. And this happens quite a bit throughout the course of this season, where they keep trying to be intimate. And he tells her not to a lot. And the doctors tell him, you're getting a bacterial infection, you're going to die. And she does it anyway. She's just terrible, terrible. We haven't even gotten into the biggest issue with Lila.
I know. Which is so I mean,
I feel like, I mean, do you want me to
so
say it?
I think because we still have a couple of characters to talk to, but we've kind of got into the plot already, and I think we could just tie them in. So let's cut it to a break, and then when we come back, we will talk about Lila Garrity's biggest issue, the rest of the cast, and the plot of season 2. We are talking about the 2006 TV show Friday Night Lights, aka Lila Garrity is the worst.
The worst.
Yeah, we should have done a bonus up on Lila Garrity being the worst. Oh, well.
Well, maybe for the future.
Maybe for the future, yeah. We'll have to keep that in mind when we do TV shows in the future.
Yeah.
So Lila Garrity, just to kind of sum up, was dating Jason Streets, the QB1 of the Dillon Panthers. He was injured in a game, paralyzed, and Lila kind of had this toxic positivity of, you're going to be able to walk again, everything's going to be fine, we're going to get married and have babies and go to college and blah, 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 blah. And everyone else said that's not going to happen. And so in her hour of desperation, she calls on Jason's best friend, Tim Riggins, played by none other than Taylor Kitsch. Sam, any thoughts on Tim Riggins? Besides the obvious.
Tim Riggins gets a pass on being a shitty person because Taylor Kitsch was moderately attractive in 2006. And I say moderately attractive, okay? Yeah. Anytime that I have ever heard anything about Friday Night Lights, and when this show was on, all the girls my age were, Tim Riggins on Friday Night Lights, and everybody loves Tim Riggins, and Tim Riggins is great. Tim Riggins is a sack of shit, okay? I'm sorry. He is. First of all, he is wasted all the time. His dad's not around. It's him and his brother. And clearly there's neglect going on in the home. So he is the one that is drunk all the time, having sex all the time, and just, the wild bad boy, the fullback. Everybody loves him.
Yes, he was moderately attractive then. I'd say he is very attractive now. I don't know if you follow his Instagram, but
yes, he is attractive.
He is.
Listen, Taylor Kitsch also, right before the new Deadpool and Wolverine that just came out, Taylor Kitsch was also the only person to ever play Gambit in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is one of my favorite X-Men. And he wasn't a great Gambit, but he was still the only Gambit. Now Channing Tatum did Gambit in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Right.
But he was so popular in Friday Night Lights that they started putting him in all these big movies. John Carter, which I think bombed miserably. And the interesting thing about Taylor Kitsch is he was just in this weird dead zone where he couldn't quite break through in a way, but it's not for lack of trying. I just don't know if he got good projects. So I am a fan of Taylor Kitsch now.
Right.
Tim Riggins, no.
Yeah.
No.
I think there are a couple of actors that I would kind of lump into a similar category as him. I think Ian Somerhalder from Vampire Diaries, I think was very similar. I think even Sam Heughan from Outlander, I would kind of group into that as well. Although he has gone on to do some bigger projects that have been successful.
You know who else though? The Cullen brothers that aren't R-Pats.
Yes,
we're in that time frame.
I feel like they all own a whiskey or a bourbon company.
Yep.
They all live out in the country somewhere and have a farm. They all do backpacking and hiking.
They're married to other people at that time. So Ian Somerhalder's married to Nikki. From
Twilight, yes.
From Twilight, right. Okay. Yeah.
I just love that there are two vampires from different properties that are married.
Oh, I never thought about that, but yeah. Do you think that if they role play, do you think they role play in the Vampire Diaries universe or the Twilight universe?
I mean, I feel like the easiest answer would be the Vampire Diaries because I feel like he just did it so much, it's probably just real easy to just fall into that.
Yes, but I think Twilight was undoubtedly the bigger vampire property, but she had a very small part and he's the main guy. So maybe it's 50-50.
So Tim Riggins, yes, his family is not great. His parents are gone. He lives with his older brother, Billy. And Billy, I'll just say, because I don't think we saw a ton of this in the first season, is always looking for the next easiest way to make money. So in season 1, he and Tyra throw a party and start charging people to come. Later, he gets into different businesses. He opens a garage at one point and always fails miserably, but is always looking for the easy way out, essentially. So that's what is influencing Tim Riggins.
First of all, you mentioned Tyra. I genuinely don't believe that we need to spend a lot of time on her, especially in season 1. When she's on the screen, I'm kind of it's a Tyra episode. And she does find her footing a little bit, but she's his on again, off again girlfriend, and he treats her like junk. I mean, he absolutely does every chance he gets, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think they have similar life. They have a similar life. Her mom is in and out of work. Her sister Mindy works at the strip club. She has a part-time job at Applebee's trying to just pay the rent. So I think that they kind of find some camaraderie in that, and that's why they're just kind of always on again, off again. But he really does treat her like she's expendable so frequently.
Yes, so that's hard to watch. He then gets involved at the end of the season with his neighbor, which is a single mom, and that is super cringeworthy in and of itself, and how he is with the kid. And yeah, that's not great. And then And this doesn't have to stay in, but the way that he then even gives Tyra those tickets and takes them back, he just doesn't. It's terrible. He's terrible.
He is.
But I think the biggest thing is he's quarterback Jason Street's best friend, and him and Lila Garrity end up hooking up throughout the first 6 episodes of the first season, while her boyfriend / his best friend is paralyzed, lying in bed. if we needed any other reason to dislike these two, this is what's happening. But let's go in even deeper on Lila, who is still in the relationship with Jason and bouncing between the two of them. And Tim Riggins falls in love with her very clearly right away. It's not a fling for him. And so he starts asking her questions. They're done hooking up one of these times. And he starts asking her, well, how's your test going? Or what do you have going on in school? And she is so nasty to him. She is so nasty to him all the time. She says, oh, Tim, you really care about my schoolwork? Why don't you care about the fact that you're having sex with your best friend's girlfriend while he's paralyzed in bed? And it's, excuse me, you're the girlfriend. He's just trying to make small talk.
Like, it's literally minutes after. It's not even like it's the next day and she had time to think about it. It's like as she's putting her clothes back on.
She's just yelling at him. So the drama, the first part of the first season, Jason naturally finds out. And then that's pretty explosive. And Lila has to deal with fallout at school. I understand what the show is trying to do from a sense of women always get it a little bit harder than the men get it. But I will say this. Unsavory things are unsavory things, and distasteful things last. And cheating on your boyfriend with his best friend while he is paralyzed.
A town hero.
Yes.
Not just anybody. Someone that every person in that town cares about and knows about.
Yes, and flaunting it. And that is unsavory, distasteful. And people have a right to react to that. I didn't think that the commentary hit as sharp as they thought.
Throughout the next couple of episodes, all three of them are kind of dealing with the fallout of the situation. Lila is getting very heavily bullied at school. Tim Riggins, I think, is just dealing with the guilt of knowing that he hurt his best friend and somebody that he loves.
But also, he gets the windows of his car smashed out with a bat.
Tim Riggins is also kind of ostracized by some of his teammates who are still in support of Jason Streets. And of course, he breaks up with Lila and wants nothing to do with Lila or Tim anymore after the situation.
He does not go visit Jason for so long after he's hurt, and he's supposed to be his best friend. And I understand that people handle grief in a different type of way, but I like that scene when Jason told him, you are my best friend. Time is up. You will be here for me now. Because yes, that's exactly how it should have been. I was disappointed to see that.
The idea was that, yes, he's dealing with the grief, but also he felt like it was his responsibility and he couldn't face Jason and own up to that, which it wasn't. Whenever they walked through the play, there was nothing that he could have done. I agree. He should have put on a brave face and just showed up.
So I did miss that beat and component, but when you're talking about people blaming themselves, Jason, who is paralyzed, second episode, is in the bed crying to Coach Taylor, I'm sorry I let you down. And I'm thinking, son, you are paralyzed for the rest of your life from an arbitrary high school football game, and you're apologizing to the coach. But that's the culture. You know what I mean? It's just wild.
Other characters make reference to that multiple times throughout the season. Tammy, I think, says it a lot that, you know, it's a shame what this town does to these kids. They, you know, make them think that they're on top of the world, and then they leave and have no idea. They think everything's going to be handed to them. Like, they have rally girls that do their homework and bake them cookies, and boosters that will pretty much do anything to make their problems go away as long as they can play in the game on Friday night. So it really is setting them up for failure once they leave high school.
And I will say that I think the show does a good job of keeping that fresh. So whether it's the rally girls feeling like they have to perform sexual favors or homework being done or steroids. I mean, there's a variety of different things that pop up throughout the season.
With Jason Streets being paralyzed and no longer able to play, the Dillon Panthers are going to rely on their second string quarterback, Matt Saracen to step up and become QB1. So, Sam, thoughts on Matt Saracen, played by Zach Gilford?
I think Matt Saracen is a really nice guy. My notes include that he is a handoff quarterback. Other than that one Hail Mary he throws in the pilot episode, every single time he is on the field from then on out, he is handing the ball to Riggins or Smash or running it himself. He does not pass. He's a handoff quarterback. I think he's a nice kid. I like him and Julie's romance. I thought it was so funny because of all the guys in the show that Coach Taylor's daughter, Julie, could date, Matt Saracen, with the exception of Landry, which I know we're going to get into Landry, but Matt Saracen is by far the one with the least game, the one that has the most respect for Coach, the one that clearly is going to treat her the best. I understand he's a high school boy and he's on the football team. But when you look at that lineup, I wanted to say, Coach Taylor, that's the number one draft pick that you want interested in your daughter for sure.
Matt Saracen or Tim Riggins?
Before Coach Taylor realizes that Saracen is into Julie, he says, "Oh, you must have love on the brain. I'm going to tell you something. Just ask this girl out. Get her in the back seat of your car. Get it out of your system and then come out to the field." That is a moment in which Coach Taylor does not have sound advice, not just because it's his daughter he doesn't know he's talking about, but because that's just not great advice, Coach. Come on. That's boys club bullshit.
I love Matt Saracen in season 1. I just think he's so sweet. So Matt Saracen, aside from playing football, trying to live up to this QB1 position, he is also taking care of his grandmother full-time while his dad is in Iraq. And that is, I think that like watching Matt Saracen in season 1 take care of his grandma is what made me really fall in love with the show. I think is because, yes, there's this overarching theme of football is the most important thing in this town. We'll do anything for these football players, but Coach Taylor is bringing all of them together, and you really get to see that they come from different backgrounds. Like, we'll see in a later season a new player that joins the team, like his parents literally hired a trainer from a different state to come in. Like, there's just these really big social economic differences. And then we have Matt Saracen, who's trying to balance, supporting his teammates, his high school classes, dealing with feelings for a girl, and also taking care of his grandmother and making sure that all the bills are paid and she has her medications and the care while he's away. I always think about this like outside of school. You never know what these kids are going home to, and I think that that's a perfect example of it.
And it showcases just the heaviness. And I don't say a burden because, especially with family members, parents that are getting older, it is never a burden to take care of your family as they're getting older, but it showcases some of the heaviness that comes with it. And he's so young, and his dad's in Iraq. And I will say there are some interesting signs of the times here. Iraq, Hurricane Katrina, but this show could also be subtitled Horrible Dads.
Yeah.
Tim Riggins has a horrible dad. There are a lot of horrible dads, but Matt Saracen's dad is the worst. Not only does he come back and make it worse and say, I got to go back to Iraq because I want to go back, but is yelling at his mom. I actually had to Google it because I thought maybe it was Matt Saracen's mom's mom, because I could not believe that a son would come back and be so frustrated with the dementia of his own mother.
Right.
And it was so willing to commit her and yell at her in public. It was uncomfortable. But yes, that was a very touching through point. And he's juggling a lot. I like him. I like him for sure.
Matt Saracen's best friend is not on the football team, but he is still a notable character and one that I really like as well. And that is Landry Clark, played by Jesse Plemons.
A baby Jesse Plemons.
He's a baby.
Literally, he's 18 maybe at the oldest on that.
Yeah, he's so young.
Landry's the best. He's hilarious. He is in the group by proxy because he's Saracen's friend. He keeps Saracen grounded because as Saracen moves into that QB1 position, He gets faced into a lot of moral dilemmas. He is chasing after Tyra, who normally would be so far out of his league. I am hopeful. You can spoil that for me. They get together, yeah, at least for a little bit.
For a little bit, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'm sure that it goes exactly how I think it's going to go, but he's awesome. I've never really been a huge fan of Jesse Plemons in general, but I liked him here, and it actually makes me view him a lot more favorably than I had at any point in time now that I've seen him as Landry, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I don't think that I would ever watch anything and be like, oh my gosh, it's Jesse Plemons. I'm so excited. But what I found is since watching this show, I do watch things that he's in and go, hey, it's Landry. So I think Landry Clark, for us, is his best role, let's say. But yeah, he definitely keeps Matt grounded. He reminds him that, you know, and I feel like he's also the voice of reason, that like, you do realize that the things that are happening are weird, right? And they don't happen to anybody. Like, nobody else has a random girl that's been assigned to them to bake them food and do their homework. Like, you know that that's weird, right? And like, he really helps Matt out. He's basically his chauffeur. And yeah, he does get with Tyra later, which, before we wrap up, I can do kind of a quick overview of the rest of the show.
Maybe, because I might want to watch it.
That's true. I don't want to ruin anything that you want to find out yourself.
Yeah.
So the last key character that we haven't talked about is Smash. Smash is on the football teams. Smash Williams. We mentioned steroids earlier. He is the character who there's a lot riding on this. He is relying on getting a football scholarship to most likely the University of Texas, playing there, getting a good job, and then being able to support his mother and his two sisters. And so at some point there comes this like list of the top 10 players or something like that, and he is willing to do anything to be on it. So he does start using steroids, and that causes some issues between him and Coach Taylor, rightfully so, in trying to figure that out. So any other thoughts on Smash?
He's annoying to me, very cocky, not a team player at all, and maybe he starts to become one later, but I think he's fairly antagonistic with a lot of those people. I like the storyline with him. I like him as a character. I was invested in what was going on.
I was rooting for him the whole time that he would get that scholarship. Honestly, I think I was more invested in what his mom had going on than what he had
like his
on.
family was the highlight for me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, exactly, because there was so much there. That rounds up the main cast of characters. So let's cut it to break, and when we come back, we'll talk plot, major points, things that we loved, things that we didn't love, and wrap up Friday Night Lights. Wrapping up our discussion of the 2006 TV series Friday Night Lights. We walked through our cast of characters, did a quick overview of the first couple of episodes with Jason Streets being paralyzed, Matt Saracen becoming the quarterback. So let's kind of talk plot for the rest of season 1. So I think the overarching story of season 1 is that the Dillon Panthers lost states last year, or didn't make it to states the year before, and they are trying to make it to states this year. So every couple of episodes we are seeing a big game or the lead up to a big game.
The footage in the game was really good, and I looked forward to those scenes when it was clearly going to be a game episode. I will say, watching 22 episodes back to back, they win every game in some dramatic fashion right at the end. There is a little bit of an eligibility issue at the beginning where they recruit a quarterback that is displaced from Hurricane Katrina named Voodoo. And he was scary. Like, he was an intimidating guy, definitely an intimidating guy. And he's only on the team for a really short spell before he goes back to New Orleans and kind of blows up that they had illegally recruited him. Thanks, buddy Garrity. Basically following the team over the course of a fall. So that includes homecoming dances, fundraisers, team dinners, car washes, cheerleading competitions, you name it. I did find it to be very authentic to the high school experience.
The team is always in danger of getting disqualified or losing a star player. The eligibility issue with Voodoo. We then have Smash using steroids, and so he's been taken out for a game. Later, we have Tim Riggins, who's failing his classes, and it's the question of, is he going to be able to do what he needs to pass and stay on the team, or is he going to have to sit out some games? So it's always this question of, are they going to actually be able to perform? And yes, spoiler, they do win every single game.
It becomes a little formulaic, I would say, in the sense of there's an issue at the top of the hour, and it continues to expand till about 3/4 of the way in, and then it gets resolved and they win the game in the end. I will say that there's a little bit of a tonal shift for me. So the first couple episodes of this, I wasn't exactly sure. It was a sports drama, maybe a family drama focused on the Taylors. I understood why it was on NBC because it felt like a network show. And yeah, like a sports drama. I have written so many times all throughout my notes here. This is One Tree Hill. This is One Tree Hill, but for football. And somewhere it just decides 6 or 7 seasons in that it is going to be a teen soap going around football. And it's the Ravens and Nathan and Haley and Jason and Lila. And I just then kind of got surprised that it was an NBC show, because if it was on the CW or WB at the time or whatever it was, I think it would have gone even longer. And over the course of its run, it's only on NBC, I think, for the first 2 seasons, and then it moves to DirecTV, even despite that it had good ratings. So yeah, this show kind of gets very soapy and very One Tree Hill. And I would say if at any point in time, Gavin DeGraw would have cut through any of the silence with an "I don't want to be," I would have levitated. I was just waiting for it. Once I cracked that nut, I began to, unfortunately, but also fortunately, not take it that seriously. And it made it so much more fun to watch because I'm like, this is a soap. You know, like at One Tree Hill when the dog eats Dan's heart transplant. Do you know what I mean? Like, yes, out of the cooler. Yes. I felt like this never gets quite to that level in season 1, right? But we also don't get far from it.
The star quarterback is paralyzed in the first game, and I think that's a stretch. When I was watching it the first time, I was like, if this is the route we're gonna go, I don't know that I'm invested. But I think the way that they explore, like we talked about, Jason's paralysis and the team trying to recover, that's what won me.
And they do tell very unique stories. Jason, yes, as he's getting in recovery, is with his friend, his rehab partner, her. He ends up trying to get involved in wheelchair rugby, which, Sarah, there is a 2003 documentary called Murder Ball, which is all about wheelchair rugby. And that is also in the Paralympics. My friend was watching that this summer and said it's so intense to watch. So it was cool to kind of see that. Jason and Lila get into this never-ending round and round every 3 episode cycle, and it's break up already, okay? The life is gone. He tells her to get out. He's mad at her, which rightfully so, because the toxic positivity is insane.
Anyway, we'll go to dinner next year when you're all better.
When I'm better. Lila, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm not getting any better. Can't you see that?
Come on, Jason, you gotta have faith.
Lila, stop.
Listen to me. This is just a little hiccup. In 1 year, you'll be back on track.
Lila, stop it.
You will go to
Stop
Notre
it!
Dame on your
Stop! My legs are never gonna get better.
There are cases, lots of cases where people...
And those cases aren't me. I don't even have full use of my hands. I'll be lucky if I get that back. All right, I can't even put my own shoes on enough. How can you not see that? What the hell is wrong with you?
I'm just trying to help.
Yeah, but you're not helping. You want to help, then stop pretending that everything's okay. And you walk in here, all smiles and acting like nothing's wrong, and it's killing me. So I need you to do something for me, all right? Get out.
She comes back. He finds out about her and Tim, and they just keep going back and forth nonstop. Jason ends up proposing to her at one point, And that's where he lost me. I would have put Jason Straits in that's a cool character, that's a good guy, until he's not.
I liked Jason Street initially, and then he has that like weird outburst with his mom too, where he's like, I'm a cripple and I want to listen to Nirvana. Guess I'll have to wheel 8 miles to go get another Nirvana CD. And then he gets there and holds it up in the air, and like no one's looking because nobody knows why he did that. But there's such weird like tonal shifts with him. He just kind of has these random outbursts.
And understandably, it's a huge life change to come to terms with, but he decides he's not going to go back to school. They end up suing the Taylors, and then he ends up being an assistant coach on the team. So all of this happens within 22 episodes. The one thing I will say, though, getting back to our girl Lila, Jason ends up having some sort of fling with a woman that is administering the Paralympic rugby trials. And Lila catches them kissing. And Sara, the riot act that she gives Jason and the way that she's talking to him about cheating is unbelievable. Unbelievable, considering what she was doing with Tim Riggins. You know who Lila Garrity would be great with?
Who?
Dawson Leary. Put them together on Pacey's boat and send them off. I'm actually shook to my core thinking about the two of them on a date. I don't even know how I'm going to be able to move forward on the rest of this, but I'm going to try.
Okay. I think the last plot point to kind of focus on for season 1 is the fact that Eric Taylor does get an offer from Texas Methodist University to become a coach there. And coaching college, as I think he would be a quarterback coach, is kind of his dream. And so there's a couple of episodes where he's not sure what to do about this. He's doing the interview. He ultimately accepts the position and then is dealing with the fallout of that while they are also getting ready to play in the state championship game.
I will say that Tammy Taylor's pregnancy, I loved, didn't see it coming, thought it was great.
Yeah, what a surprise to throw in there at the end.
Could you imagine? They have a 16-year-old daughter, 15-year-old daughter, and then they're going to start all over again with the baby.
What a crazy age gap. And the way it happens too, like she's just on her way to Dallas to the game and is like, something's not right. Got to take a pregnancy test, and Smash's mom coming in clutch with the being able to help her out, and it's crazy.
And I think what's great is they're so excited for the baby. The Taylors are awesome. They're fantastic. They're going to find a way to make it work. And so he finds out right before state. And wouldn't you know that the final game is the Panthers versus the team that Voodoo, the Hurricane Katrina refugee, is quarterbacking on their team, which, Sarah, I felt like when I watched him walk onto the field, I said to myself, you should have seen this coming a mile away, but I didn't because I thought he was playing in Louisiana, so why would he be at state?
I know.
I had no idea.
I thought the same thing, and I've watched this show multiple times, and I was rewatching this episode for the pod, and I was like, oh, it's Voodoo! Like, I had no idea.
And I was like, oh, it's personal, because Voodoo knows that he's a better quarterback than Saracen, because when they're both on the team, it's this back and forth on who you going to play, who are you not going to play, and Saracen doesn't have the stuff, but he's the jolly good boy. Voodoo says, I'm not going to kiss your butt, Coach Taylor. I'm better. If you don't want to play me, I'll just quit. Voodoo goes off the rails when he starts calling his own plays and stuff. We've talked about team sports. That's never okay. When they were there at the championship game, I was invested. I watched it in my recliner. When I saw him, I sat straight up. I pushed down the ottoman part, sitting on the edge of my seat.
I love that.
I was invested. The Dillon Panthers lose No, I'm kidding. Of course they don't.
Of course they win. They've won literally every single game.
Right. And Matt Saracen beats him with some sort of handoff, Smash Williams, all that. We know Matt Saracen ain't throwing. All he has is a ground game, okay? Listen,
true.
I could be the quarterback if I had to perform like Matt Saracen did. So, anyway.
So they win, and Coach Taylor has accepted the job at TMU. Tammy Taylor is pregnant. And that's like where we leave it. That's kind of it for season 1. So let's wrap it up then. Sam, as a first-time viewer, do you think that you will continue watching the rest of the series?
I absolutely will keep watching the rest of the series. I don't know if I will do it in the condensed span in which I watched season 1. So I started season 1 at 2:00 on a Friday and was done by noon on a Sunday because I just kind of kept it going.
Right.
I don't know that I will watch it in those really concentrated bursts. But yeah, I'm invested. I'm interested.
Do you think you would recommend it to other people as well?
I think I would definitely talk about it with other people that have seen it. And I would recommend it. I think the only thing holding it back is the number of episodes. Again, I just don't think that television is consumed the way that it was even 20 years ago. But yes, if anybody says, I'm thinking about checking out Friday Night Lights, I would say, definitely, it's so good. Let me know. I'd love to talk to you about it.
Cool. So let's rate it to a Little Debbie. How would you compare this on the Little Debbie scale?
Okay, so I compared this to a birthday cake cream pie.
Ooh, interesting choice.
So, because once I figured out that this is a CW sports show, I could really get into the feel of it. As we talked about, birthday cake is a flavor profile that I really, really enjoy. It's not always my first choice, but sometimes it is my first choice. And shows like this are not always my first choice of what I'm going to be watching, but sometimes I will sit down and binge them like it's the end of the world and it will be satisfying and to my soul. There is nothing subtle about the birthday cream pie. It is in your face. It is full of flavors. It's got confetti. It's got a lot of sugar. And there is really nothing subtle about this show either. You jump right into it. You are transported into Dillon, and the kids are taking steroids, getting paralyzed, having sex, beating up cars. It's just wild, okay? Taking care of their grandma. Taking care of their grandma. Working at the Applebee's. All of that. That being said, the birthday cake cream pie does get a little bit too sweet at times, and you have to kind of take your time. You can't finish a whole box in one sitting, and I feel that way about this show, but ultimately, both the birthday cake cream pie and Friday Night Lights are satisfying, fun, and bring me a lot of joy.
I would agree with that. In a similar vein, I picked the peanut butter cream pie because I really enjoy it when I eat it. I don't frequently buy it, and I know that if I consumed an entire box, it is not the best choice. Similar to this show, I feel like for me, seasons 1 and 2 are peak. And after that, I could take it or leave it. Sometimes I want to see what else happens, but I think in small doses, this is something that I really enjoy.
I think to sum it up both way, whichever one we pick, it's a lot of empty calories, but it's so satisfying when you're in the mood for empty calories.
Exactly. It's totally worth it.
Sarah, this was a winner for me. I was glad.
It was fun. I love talking about this show. Well, that is it for our Friday Night Lights recap and this episode. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts at FoFamPod for more information behind the scenes, videos, and if you have questions, if you want to talk about how awful Lila Garrity is and how she and Dawson Leary would be a perfect match, email us at foreignandfamiliarpod@gmail.com.
Just had a shiver go down my spine.
I had to leave this on an interesting note, Sam. I have to give you some feels before we leave.
Thanks so much. See you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for eavesdropping on us.
If you can't get enough of the Cousin Chronicles, head over to Instagram and follow @FauxFamPod for more in-depth info and behind-the-scenes details.
Or email us at foreignfamiliarpod@gmail.com.
Foreign and Familiar is a Flynn & Flynn production.
The theme is Colorful by Allerlie von Nicolai.